Alright, hello everyone and welcome to a new video in the New World Hardcore series. In this one, we're just going to do a little bit of a summary, kind of reflection back on the challenge. We've obviously made it, as you can see in the bottom, level 60, and see kind of my impressions of it, what I thought, maybe some things that can change if doing this in the future, if we do that again, and kind of just overall impressions of it, and then what the next steps could potentially be if you were up for it. So overall impression of the challenge. Well, actually, let me start with, kind of going over the rules one more time. If you haven't watched any of the other videos or read the descriptions. So the rules were obviously hardcore. So death equals delete. Start from scratch. We haven't needed to do that. So this is a first attempt. Made it to 60. Solo leveling only. No grouping up. Haven't done any of that. No crafting, no trading posts, no consumables other than food, no camps, no gathering, no fighting mobs 5 levels lower than the character, and staying in level appropriate zones. Also excluded some weapons, and those weapons are hatchet, just because it has a healing ability, life staff, again, healing. Sword and shield, also just because you could basically tank and just shield your way through the whole game for the most part, and then Void Gauntlet, again, for the healing ability. I think that was a pretty good set of restrictions, but it did leave some wiggle room in terms of what weapons to use. I honestly did not have a plan. I didn't have anything set up and that I worked off of that was like, okay, up until this level I'm gonna do this, up until this level I'm gonna do that, or switch it up. Just went into it blind because I thought it would. I thought, and I think it did turn out to be more enjoyable that way, instead of just having it meticulously pre-planned and do this quest to get this reward. I don't think it would have been interesting. So went into it blind with those set of rules and kind of saw what works and what doesn't in the game. Right off the top of my head, one of the problems that or that manifested itself is that right up until the point of just in the first zone, we had to leave Monarch's Bluff before I was able to get this quest done. So we got to level 18 before I got the quest done, and at that point had to leave for Everfall. So from that point on, did not do any of the main quest, for the reason that staying in the level appropriate zone. So I could not go back and do this quest. Now, thinking about it, didn't pose a big problem. It actually made it more interesting because I couldn't just follow the main quest around through all of the zones and through all of the areas and say, okay, I have XP that way. I had to really pay attention to when quests opened up, every time I leveled, I had to pay attention to where I had quests so that I could go and get those quests done and level up sooner. So, it made it interesting, but it also made it so that as of right now, if I follow those same rules, I basically can't proceed forward because I'm level 60. I can stay in the level appropriate zones, that's not a problem, but I can't go to Brimstone Sands because I need the main story quest. So that's one thing that, if y'all feel like carry on with this challenge into Brimstone Sands and maybe finishing up all of the main story quest in the original zones and then finishing up the main story quest in Brimstone Sands as well. There might be some potential there, but if you all feel like that would be interesting, and then staying within the rest of the rules, we might have to take that the rule of staying in level appropriate zones and not fighting mobs 5 levels lower than the character out of the equation. Which, at this point, those two rules were made so that I couldn't just sit there and farm lower level quests and then level up that way. So they were meant to basically force me to move to the next zone and then really kind of stay on the tippy toes. I think it had its effect too. So I think one of the most amazing things is, obviously death equals delete, and you don't really think about it until you're playing the character, but it really makes you not want to die. I think the last few levels, those of you who've watched those, I was very cautious. I did not want to die at level 59, 58, or 57. That just would have been devastating to have to start over. Probably not interesting either to you, but it really makes you play differently. Like, you go up to a quest and you're like, do I really have to do this quest, or can I skip it and do something else, and maybe I can get back to it later on when I have better gear or anything else. So yeah, it made the whole experience a lot more enjoyable. It made me stay on my toes the whole time. I wasn't just, I was paying attention to everything that I did. I wasn't just playing and paying attention to a YouTube video in the background or something else. I was really focused and not dying. There was a few times, I think actually in the beginning, in Monarch's Bluff, and I remember the area too. It was there was a castle in here somewhere. I believe this one, if I'm not mistaken. Or this, actually I want to say this one, where I got down to very, very, very low health. Anything that would have just touched me, I would have died from. So, I think it was, I want to say under 100 health for sure. So definitely very close there. And there's a few other instances. I want to say Eden Grove and Reekwater recently. So just few chances that could have died very, very easily. So I'm glad everything worked out, though. The other thing is gear. I went into the challenge not really much knowing, what gear I'm going to use, and I didn't have any of that planned out, like I said. And then I stumbled across, the faction gear and the faction quest. Well, I knew that they existed, but I was able to buy the gear and stay within the rules, and that really helped out tremendously. As far as weapons, rapier, bow, honestly, never would have thought about this combination. Just didn't even cross my mind to do that one. But as I started playing and got a good rapier, and then a bow. Initially, I had a musket, but the musket was just so slow, just so painful to level with. I had to switch it up. So the decision to go rapier bow, I think probably one of the best ones that I made throughout the whole thing, and then kind of stay on the with medium armor, stayed on the agile side of things, where I was still trying to dodge and weave and not just push through all of the hits that I would have done with being heavy weapons. So yeah, I think it worked out very well, and actually doing this challenge is making me reconsider what I use on my main character in terms of weapons, and I really want to try rapier bow for PvP purposes. I think I feel like it would do great. I've fought a few people, didn't think about it at the time, but I feel like now this combination would just do amazing. So yeah, and overall, just to summarize, very positive. I love the fact that I decided to do this. Appreciate everybody on Reddit who contributed to the rules and kind of gave their ideas. So really helped out, and it kind of made a very interesting leveling experience for me, and hopefully for you as well. Gave you something else to look at and potentially do with your characters if you're getting to that point of you've played, you got your character all decked out, and you're 625 expertise, and you're not, you don't do mutations and whatnot. You don't have time for those, or whatever. You're more of a casual like me. It gives you something else to do in the game. I think this is one of the best games out there right now for people that don't have massive amounts of time to sink into it. So you're able to pick stuff up, do it, and do a couple hours a day or a few hours a week, and you'd still have a lot of fun, not really worry about it too much. So I think a challenge like that, like the one that I just did, kind of gives you something else to do. You can make your own, see if you could do the same thing but differently with different weapons with maybe a couple of different rules. Maybe you do pots instead of food. I thought about that being one that would have been interesting, because when you don't have, or when you haven't eaten food, it takes much longer to regenerate HP. So that might have had a different dynamic if you were just using, health potions and weren't eating any food. But I do think that some of the fights would have been easier. So, and different set of weapons, I would say also, try the strength weapons, the warhammer, greatsword. That would be interesting. I have a feeling that rapier, ice gauntlet, or potentially something with fire staff also would have been very interesting. Spear would have been actually probably a pretty interesting weapon to do this challenge with, but just didn't have the opportunity to do that. So if you're thinking about doing this, definitely drop some comments below. I'd love to hear about what your thoughts are on what type of rules you would want to set for yourself. And as far as my challenge, depending on what you guys feel like, if we should progress, I think we drop the 2 rules of no fighting mobs 5 levels below and staying in the level appropriate zones. And I think we can, get through the main story quest and then push into Brimstone Sands. That might be very interesting, because it's a completely different challenge to do Brimstone Sands. You definitely need some good gear, and there's absolutely no chance that I would survive with what I have on right now. So, and not even with that. So let me know how you feel about it, and maybe we can resurrect this challenge and keep it going, and seeing if we can get the main story quests done. I appreciate everyone that watched. Thank you for watching, and I hope you stay tuned to see other videos. So, thank you, and have a great one.